Okay.
Thanks, Els. Jenny's going to introduce you.
Okay. I didn't want to take up too much time, so it'll be a short introduction, but Elsie knew Sid before his experience, and she was the first person really to start sharing the principles apart from Sid. So she's been around this over 40 years now, and she's travelled all over, sharing in all different types of communities, business, within the prison system, juvenile halls. She's the author of 6 books. And then personally, for me, she's always encouraged and been kind and loving and supportive, and hasn't had judgment and different things which I've experienced within the community. And I've always had a lot of love and preached with us, and she's just a very special lady, and I was so grateful that she said she would speak. We've altered the timings of today to make it possible, so I don't want to take up any of your time. I just thank you so much for being with us all.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Well, honestly, thank you for inviting me. I love what you two are doing, and how you offer this program, the retreat, for donations or to pay it forward in kind. I love that. And honestly, that's what prompted me, the way you share and the wonderful work you do, and your kindness and generosity prompted me to accept, because I do very few webinars nowadays. I hesitate to say I'm semi-retired. I guess I'm semi-retired in terms of traveling, as we all are. You know, I don't think anybody's really traveling very much anymore. But I'd made that decision beforehand to curtail my traveling and to do what I didn't know. I just knew that my body was speaking up and saying that I needed to take care of my body as much as I was taking care of my spirit. And that was really an amazing lesson for me, to see that my spirit and my body, to get a deeper feeling for the oneness. And so when I made that internal decision, not knowing what would take its place, what came out was not feeling moved to do as many webinars and podcasts as I used to, and my writing started to expand and just flow out of me. And that was one of the things I wanted to share today, is how powerful we are as individuals because of this spiritual power within us. I knew nothing about spirit, prior to meeting Sid. And certainly in the first year of our relationship, where Ken and I knew Sid and his wife at the time, Barb, who passed away, we all had a great deal of insecurity. And for the first time, I began to rather enjoy my insecurity, if you can believe it or not. When I was insecure with other people or with Ken, I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know I was insecure, because that was not something that I or my family or friends talked about. We had no idea of the role of thought. We didn't talk about insecurity, because that would have been admitting to something, so we had a sense that insecurity was not a good thing, wasn't a productive thing in our mental health, but we didn't know it intellectually. Even as I'm saying that, it occurs to me that we had a sense of that via our innate mental health. But because we didn't know what innate mental health was, we didn't really listen to any kind of prompting in the background. And so anytime I did feel insecure with my family or friends, I accused them for my insecurity, for my feeling bad. it was all their fault or it was my family's fault. So it wasn't until Sid and Barb and Ken and I started to get together and become really close friends, although my husband had worked with Sid for 8 years prior to that in a pulp mill. But when we got together and talked about how awful work was for the fellas, you know, that they worked in a really toxic environment, chemically toxic, relationship toxic, employee and managers, there was toxicity and contention there. Like it was really awful. But when we got together and talked amongst the four of us, there was a lightheartedness about ain't it awful to a degree, you know what I mean? Like we felt in alignment with them in a way that we didn't with anybody else. And so we had a fair time in our insecurity. And then Sid went and had this spontaneous epiphany where he realized these three spiritual gifts of mind, consciousness, and thought. And although, again, when we saw him maybe 2 or 3 days after this profound experience, and we could see there was something distinctly different about him, we didn't really look too long at his face. I kind of look at him out of the corner of my eyes, you know, like, what's up? What happened to him? I knew he hadn't been on vacation. And I know when he did go back to work to the pulp mill with this glow and this presence coming through him, that there were some of his workmates that didn't recognize him. And that when he went into his locker to retrieve his coveralls and work tools and things like that, one of his workmates stopped him and said, "What are you doing? You know, why are you going into Scotty's locker?" So that he was unrecognizable to some. But it was this feeling about him. And then as time went on, when Ken and I would still be talking with him and with Barb about how awful our life was, and we were again sort of peeking out of their eyes, and we could see that they were becoming like honeymooners. They were sitting on the sofa arm in arm. You know, Sid would have his arm around her and would be cuddling her. And prior to that, they would be sitting each one end of the sofa, and Ken and I would be on the love seat facing them, also with a great distance between us. And now they were cuddling after 14 years of marriage. Well, what was that about? I was rather dismayed, I will admit, and suspicious. Like, what's going on here? And so when we would start to talk about the same old stuff again, they just didn't entertain it like they used to. And Sid would casually mention that it had, the way I was looking at life had something to do with thought. It was my thoughts about life. And I thought, you know, come on, Sid, get a grip. You know, this isn't reality. I don't know what you've been up to, and this just doesn't make sense. And he had told us that first day they visited us that he'd found the secret to life. And he was unabashed when he said this. He said this with such certainty. And frankly, I took it as arrogance. I thought, you found the secret to life? Yeah, right, Sid. You're got minimal education while you were in Scotland. You know, you've been insecure as much as we have, if not more. And now you're talking about having found the secret to life? That just made no sense to us whatsoever. Long story short, it wasn't until I had my own insight during great anger And yet through that anger where I hid from Sid and Barb, after they left, I had this insight that thought creates feeling. And I felt such overwhelming relief and peace of mind that it moved me to tears. And I saw my children different when they came home from school. I saw Ken different when he came home from work. Instead of nagging them immediately to, kids, get onto your homework, put your boots, you know, were you brought up in a barn? You know, like, get with it, get tidy. And same with Ken. I greeted him with love instead of judgment. And so there was that complete change in my attitude, not because of what Sid was telling me. That was certainly a catalyst, and it prompted questions to him, mainly about thought when they would come to visit us, and then I would get angry when he responded to my question. I would get quite indignant and say, well, Sid, I've asked you not to talk about this nonsense to me, and here you are talking. And he'd said, well, dearie, you asked me a question about thought. One of the things I did notice during this reactivity on my part is that he was not reactive to my challenges. And I didn't understand it. I observed it, but I didn't understand it. And it was like there was two parts of me, and there is to everybody. There's our true nature, and then there's our human nature. And as time goes on and we begin to learn more and embrace the principles that are within us, that are our spiritual inheritance, our human nature and our spiritual nature become closer and closer. They are one. But most of us don't know that until we start to experience that harmony between our true nature and our intellect, our human nature. And so my true nature was observing Sid's look on his face, that he looked young and at ease, and he had this presence that had him standing up strong and certain. I observed that, but I didn't know what to make of it. And so as time went on, I began to see that my true nature was there guiding me when I would listen to it. And I learned to listen to my true nature via a feeling. When I try to understand, sometimes like the guidance that my true nature would offer, or the insight that came to me, thought creates feeling, I didn't really know what that meant in the moment. I felt it. I knew it was true, that phrase, thought creates feeling, I knew that was true, but I didn't understand it. And now that dichotomy brings me joy, is awesome. To know that you don't have to understand in order to benefit by these principles that are within us, that we are. And so I began to notice more of the time my true nature observing things, and I didn't know quite what to make of it. I'm going to fast forward now. We've all been locked down to various degrees here since February, March of last year. to now, even here on the island, we're still in lockdown in British Columbia. Most of Canada is. I understand the UK is as well, as we go through these challenging times. I was due to go to Los Angeles last March to do the last retreat for a client. And I was starting to feel a little anxious about traveling, even though the country wasn't in lockdown. The governments were still trying to figure out what to do with this COVID-19, you know, how to handle it. But I was intuitively feeling that I might want to take a look at canceling my trip. And so one morning I woke up after having it go through me in the middle of the night, and I woke up with this insight: cancel. And I called my client and said, I'm really feeling I need to cancel this coming to LA. And I trust you'll understand, and perhaps we can do it online or whatever, but I just need to cancel my trip. And this was before the airlines would reimburse your money, because the airlines themselves weren't flying. And I just didn't care. Like, I didn't care about the external circumstances of, if I cancel, I won't get a rebate or a refund. I just trusted the insight that said you need to cancel and stay home. About a week after that, I ended up doing a retreat online for that same client that another practitioner was supposed to do, and they came down with the virus. And so my client said, would you take this person's place? And I said, gladly. And I did the retreat online and had an absolutely amazing time with the group. I didn't know you could get such a deep feeling online with people, that you could be in love with the group online in the same way that you could be in person. And that showed me a little that spirit has no boundaries. Our spiritual nature can connect online just as it can in person. And I'm sure you all in the last year have experienced that as well. Here we are doing this retreat online. And from what I've seen on your Facebook, Jen and Dave, you've had an incredible time for group retreats. So I did that retreat, and then just a few days after that, I came down with COVID. And at that time on Salt Spring Island, because we're a very small island, we have a very good hospital, but there were absolutely no tests or anything to show, you know, to test whether I did have it or not. But I had, when I went online to BC Medical and went through all the symptoms, I had all the symptoms, except I didn't have difficulty breathing. I had a high fever, I was having hallucinations, and so on and so forth. I was isolated in our bedroom for almost 3 weeks. My husband was isolated in my office where I'm doing this call. And he would come in and feed me little mini meals, you know, all geared up with gloves, mask, and everything else. I had such a busy mind during that time with the fever and everything else. I observed my busy mind. I hadn't had a mind that busy, I will say, in decades. And I couldn't stop it. It was like I had no control over that busy mind. It felt like I was a hamster in a cage going round and round and round, and I couldn't get off. I lost my taste and smell. I couldn't stand coffee. And during this busy-mindedness, I couldn't read. I love to read. Not self-awareness books. The only books I read are Sid's. I couldn't bear to watch TV. I love TV. I especially love like British shows. I couldn't bear to watch TV. Didn't know why. It's just like I didn't want it. It wasn't until after that time of 2-3 weeks isolation, and then I did another webinar and I was sharing what I'd been experiencing. And someone said on the webinar that they'd gone through a really difficult time, and they judged themselves and they blamed themselves for getting insecure and having such a tough time as they were blaming themselves for their insecurity and their lostness. And I realized as this lovely lady was saying this, that I hadn't judged myself while I was ill. I hadn't judged myself for my busy mind. I just observed it. I hadn't blamed myself when I couldn't control it, you know. I just observed it. And that insight, while I was listening to the lady share her feelings of blame and judgment, I just was blown away, because I saw that even when I couldn't watch TV or read, it was mind, consciousness, and thought protecting me from any more outward stimulation. I didn't know that at the time. I experienced it, but I didn't know what was going on until way after the fact. And then the penny dropped, and I realized, oh my word, that's mind, thought, and consciousness. That's that spiritual power we all are born with, protecting me, protecting all of you, no matter what is going on. Whether we know it or not, whether we can articulate it, that is really something. If this is the only thing you could take away from this hour that we're going to spend together, to know that these spiritual gifts within us are always protecting us. Whether we understand it, whether we're aware of it in the moment, we're protected. Now, I'm not saying that I still don't go in and out of that protection. I see that going in and out of that protection is my free will, is my ability to freedom of thought. Dave and Jen, you call this program and your Facebook and your company freedom thinking. We're blessed with freedom of thought. We're blessed with free will. And sometimes we don't even know it. I've had discussions with clients who have been confused about, do I really have free will or not? Well, even for them to ask that question, like, do I have free will or not, is free will. If you didn't have free will, if you were controlled by mind, you wouldn't be asking that question. And so not only do I honor and acknowledge Sid's talks about free will and freedom of thought, but I also base what I'm sharing with you now on my own experience of free will. I absolutely see that as I began to listen more openly to my true nature, that I had a shift in my level of understanding. And I began to choose my thoughts more wisely. Again, I'm not saying I was always successful, that sometimes I'd be really gripped by an old habit or an old thought. But even during those times, of being gripped by old habits and old thoughts, they just weren't as sustainable. They didn't have as much glue. There was more Teflon. You know, I slid out of those habits quicker than I did before. And I was grateful. I didn't judge myself as much. Again, I don't want to set myself, you know, as if I just don't go back. I absolutely go back. And it's not always pleasant. And there are times where I do say to myself, geez, Elsie, after, 46 years, you should know better. And then those very words ring the bell. And it's like, oh, come on, lady, get a grip. So what? I love so what. So what is freedom? So what if we get gripped from time to time? So what if we get insecure with all the challenges we're facing with the virus and the less income and so on and so forth? So what? I look at what I have during those times. I look at the understanding that holds me. I remember how mind held me while I was ill. I remember how mind held me when Sid passed. I remember the look on his face the day he invited Ken and I to visit him while he was bedridden, the day before he passed, and I saw the peace and the joy on his face because he knew his time here on this planet and in his ill body was nearing an end. And we had we laughed. I'll never forget that. Because he not only talked in his talks after he had his epiphany about not just having a near-death experience, he talked about going through to the other side. I've had various people say to me, I've had a near-death experience, or a friend did, or a mentor of mine had a near-death experience. Sid didn't talk about a near-death experience. He honored those that had near-death experiences. He honored that their lives changed. What he said is, I didn't have a near-death experience. I went through to the other side. And I'm here to say, there's nothing to be afraid of. And whenever he shared that at conferences and various talks he gave to us privately, I got a feeling from him about that. My own true nature recognized the truth of that. And then beyond his words, beyond the feeling, was the actual experience of being with him just before he passed. To see him living in no fear. To see him living in the joy of going home. Now, again, I'm not saying that after he passed, I didn't experience grief. I absolutely did. And my husband did. And our dear friends that were here on the island. We did as well. We went through our human grief. But then there came a time where I woke up. Because I also saw Sid go through his grief when his wife passed, when they were staying near us in Florida. And we had been with Sid and Barb the day before, and then the next day I got a call that Barb had passed away while Sid was out with a client. And this person asked me and Ken to come there right away. And by the time we got there, the ambulance was there, and we were there while they took Barb away. And then Sid arrived as they were taking Barb away. We went to the hospital with Sid. We saw him go through it. We saw him go through his human grief and loss. And then a few days later, before he flew home to be with his children, his son Dave flew in, and then they both went home. We saw how he settled at home again inside himself. So when you see something like that, you witness something like that, and then you experience something similar yourself, you know there's something there. You know there's something beyond our human form that honors our human form. So in the same way that I began to understand that my body was the form of the formless, and I began to take care of it more than I ever had before, to rest my exhausted body. And my body responded. So that now, after this year of enforced rest, my body is rejoicing. It's like going, yay, you know. So this whole time, have I had less income as well? Absolutely. Maybe a quarter of what I had the year before. Does it bother me? Occasionally it does. And then it's like, just be still. Honor what you have, is what my wisdom tells me. And don't worry about what you don't have. And the choice for me is, do I want to live in worry, or do I want to live in well-being? That's simple. I make the choice. I want to live in well-being. And I know I've experienced that when I come back into my true nature, things happen. Like another client comes out of the blue. I give discounts freely. I do for nothing. Guided by the feeling from within, just as Jen and Dave do. And I'm sure that every one of you sitting here have gone through the same things, where sometimes you've been moved to do your work for nothing when the need is there and you feel moved to do so. And other times when it's not necessary and somebody is okay financially and they can reimburse you, then you are respectful of that. But being guided by that feeling from within, by the choice, do I want to live in worry, or do I want to live in well-being? Why would we choose well-being over worry? I'm going to ask you, I'd like to hear some response from some of you. Anybody? Nobody?
I'll just say, Elsie, thank you for
Oh,
doing
wow.
this. I love you.
Oh,
And I just don't like the feeling of worry. I really don't. It just feels like the worst thing. And I do ask myself that. What do I want to do? I want to feel good. And that's what well-being brings me, is that lovely, good feeling. And with it is a wisdom that I'm okay. I'm okay.
That's what I was waiting for as well. I mean, it's fabulous about the good feeling, no question. Who doesn't want to feel their well-being? The other side of that too is it's productive. Wisdom comes out of well-being and guides us. It's where the how-tos come from. And even sometimes if the how-tos aren't verbalized, they will be in one way or another. The how-tos may be where an unsolicited, unsought client appears. That's what well-being offers, because well-being is a spiritual gift. It's not just about feeling good, as nice as that is. It's that well-being is productive. It produces, it takes care of us, because well-being is mind, consciousness, and thought in operation. I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing when 2021 came along. I'd had a change in webmasters. My previous webmaster, who really helped me see another way of being in service without traveling, doing online programs with groups rather than one-on-ones, which I love to do, one-on-one mentoring. But he suggested to me 2 or 3 times, to the point where I got annoyed with him, because he was saying, Elsie, you could mentor so many more people than doing it one by one. No, I'm not really interested. I love my one-on-ones. And I called and asked if we could do a Zoom. And I said, sure, what about? And he said, I just would like to talk with you. And I thought, okay, it's maybe something to do with him personally. And when we got online, he had this PowerPoint presentation on an online program. Pictures, what it would look like. I mean, he just went through the whole presentation, and I thought, my word, haven't you been listening to me? I don't want to do an online mentoring program. But I kept my mouth shut. Wisdom kept my mouth shut. My intellect, my human nature was, annoyed with him. I kept quiet. As he continued, despite my intellect and, my, I don't want to do this, was overridden by, wow, this, I got a feeling, a freshness of how I could reach more people. I got a feeling, and the feeling guided me. Long story short, I did 3 online programs. And then my webmaster changed as he was growing, as I was in our conversations, and he also hosted my online programs. He began to feel freedom even more to doing more in his work and coaching, and didn't have time to be my webmaster as much as he had previously. And I wasn't sure what to do. He offered to help me find someone else. And again, I wasn't sure. And the thought occurred to me to ask my daughter. And so my daughter now is my webmaster. But I still didn't know, do I want to do another online program or not? My writing was just flowing. And I realized, I don't want to do an online program at this time, this year. And so another book is coming out. I'm just very close to another book coming out called Mentored by Mind. And then clients started to request sessions with me out of the blue. Because I wondered, now that I've pulled back from the webinars and the podcasts, are people still interested? There's such a wealth of incredible practitioners and helpers. I thought, I don't know if anybody's going to remember this old lady. And so to my real surprise, I got these requests and I got a feeling to accept them. So I'm back into my one-on-ones, but a limited number, because I know in my heart and soul that writing right now is still my priority. So I want to stop again and take some questions, but I want to leave you again with this. The productivity and guidance that comes from well-being, whether that guidance is articulated or whether it's just a feeling of, I don't know what I want to do yet. And that feeling of, I don't know, is wonderful. That's a direction. I don't know is a direction. Just like, so what is freedom? I don't know is freedom. So it doesn't matter what your world looks like professionally and personally. Rest as best you can in your well-being, knowing it will guide you. Now, is this making sense? I do definitely see some nods and smiles. Yes. And fingers, thumbs up. Great. Any questions or comments?
May I just, somebody has put a question up online, and Michelle, would you like to ask your question? I said you could go first.
Oh, and Erica and Peter and Liz,
Hello.
lovely to see you. And Trevor. Okay, Michelle?
Hello, Elsie.
There you are. Yes.
I was hiding, really, trying to be anonymous, but there you go. I've been in an understanding of the principles since about 2014. And, well, practicing, trying to remember a space of well-being within, which, funnily enough, I first found in a lift with you at the Innate Health Conference in London in about 2015. It's like when you appeared like this golden orb of light to me. But what I find now is, number one, I don't feel entitled to live in a space of peace. And as time has gone on, I can see that I'm very programmed to seek out a fearful feeling. And then that, I know it terrorizes me and I don't want to be in that feeling. But I seem so programmed in the morning when I wake up to seek out a problem or something that causes me to feel this fearful unease all the time. And I'm aware that it's, my programming, I'm aware that it's because I don't want to be shocked by fear. So it's almost like I would sooner seek it out rather than be shocked by it when something occurs. And I know you speak, you know, a lot about living from a peaceful feeling. So I'm just wondering if you can shed any light on why would I do that, or how do I get out of that habit, really? I know it's a habit, obviously, but it's so entrenched, the programming.
Yes, that is a very common question. And thank you for asking that. First of all, I'm going to break it down into you telling us that you see, and you see your habit, you see you're programmed. What is that seeing? Where does that seeing come from?
Oh, sorry, I've just lost you on my screen. There you are. Well, I'm aware it's coming from I tend to think about a loop of infinity, and I know the ones, this is how it works for me, like a, you know, loop of infinity, like eight on its side. And so I know that the one side is like all of life, all of everything, whatever that may be. And it's like the crossroads is my awareness, and the other side is my humanness and all my thinking. But what occurred to me yesterday, it's not my thinking I'm frightened of. It's the feeling that comes from the thinking that keeps me so hooked. Because I could have any thought, and if it had no emotional charge to it, it wouldn't mean anything. It's the feeling that comes with it that just, I'm like a puppet on a string as a human, you know, just.
See, that's the thing, Michelle. You see. See isn't about a crossroads or thinking. Seeing is beyond that. Seeing is consciousness. So that's what I would honor if I were you. I would honor I see, and to heck with programming. Cut it off. Don't go there. You can either live in I see, or you can live in programming. Where do you want to live? It's already working for you. You've said to us half a dozen times, as you shared with us. And I also respect your honesty and your vulnerability that you're willing to share so openly with us. In your sharing, you said half a dozen times, I see, I'm aware, I'm not afraid of my thinking, I'm afraid of my feeling. Oh my goodness, lady. That's beautiful what you're seeing. The rest is so what? Honestly, after this call, whenever those thoughts come up again, I strongly suggest you pose this question to yourself. Where do I want to live? In programming or in well-being?
I think it's the shock element that concerns me the most. It's that, what saying, isn't there? Fail to prepare and prepare to fail. And it's the fear of that, not being prepared for a shock. Yeah. I've had, you know, shocks and losses. I'm
going to be rude and interrupt you, because that's where you get lost. Don't go there. Don't bring it up. Where do I want to live? In well-being or in shock? When you're living in well-being, that shock, if it happens, will not be as intense, in the same way that when I was so busy-minded like a hamster in a cage during my COVID experience, I didn't feel the intensity. It was there, but I didn't feel it. I didn't blame myself. I didn't judge myself. That's exactly the same for you. You have exactly that same power, and you've identified it to us all. You can't go back. You already know. Live there. And don't tell me any more.
Okay. Thank you, Elsie.
You're very welcome.
It's so lovely to see you. Thank you.
You as well.
Thank you.
Well done, Michelle, for speaking.
Yes.
Thanks.
I think it was better that you spoke up and asked your question. So well done.
Thank you.
Yes. Does that make sense, what Michelle and I just exchanged now? Does that make sense to you? Like either shake your head or nod your head. Yes. Okay. Okay. Does anybody else want to share something about that in terms of your own understanding, how you have seen freedom of thought give you that choice? Do I want to live in fear or do I want to live in well-being?
I can see Paul Mackey's got his hand up.
Where's Paul? There's Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Elsie. Elsie, you sound like an amazing person. I am brand new to this 3 principles, only through Jen and Dave's gift of a retreat back in November. In an awful place, tried committing suicide. Luckily, intervention from my ex, Claire, who's on the screen. Got an ambulance, saved my life, got us on this retreat, led us to all of this new experience. And I put myself in a world of turmoil yesterday afternoon, all night, all through today's retreat, up until a few hours ago. And I've beat myself up saying, like, God, I should know better, because I know a little bit now about these 3 principles. And just your words of, so what? And that you said I should know better after 40 odd years of this has just made me smile from ear to ear. Ear to ear. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
That's all I need to say.
Honestly, for sharing that. That is so beautiful and so powerful that you shared that again on screen with everybody. I admire and respect your courage. Well done. You're going to help so many people who have gone through what you've gone through. You know, I spoke last October, a year ago, October, in Costa Rica to a group of people that had tried to commit suicide, or parents or relatives of somebody that had committed suicide, and also cancer survivors and people that were, how would you say it? That there was no hope anymore. You know, they were terminally ill, is what I'm trying to say, with cancer. And I did a 3-hour talk for them with a translator. But I didn't want to talk about suicide, and I didn't want to talk about cancer when my client invited me in. And I thought, what am I going to say to this group? How can I reach them? And I had lunch the day before with my 2 clients that were going to take me into this group. And that was what came to me in the moment. That's all I knew was, I'm not going to talk about suicide. I'm not going to talk about cancer. They already know about that. I want to talk about life. I want to talk about our spiritual power that rises above everything, even death. I want to talk about there is no fear for death, and share my experiences, what I'd gone through with family, friends, with Sid, and my own deep feeling of, at this moment in time, feeling that death is being home. It was the feeling of where I came from that helped that group. One of the young men that came in was a paraplegic from him having tried to commit suicide and it not working, but his body took the brunt of it. So he was maybe 19 or 20 years old in this wheelchair. And in that time yet, this was way before COVID and all that. So I love to hug. I'm mama cuddle, grandma cuddle. And so I was hugging all these new people. They call it apapacho in Costa Rica. It's called apapacho, to cuddle. And so most of the time I'll ask a new person, like, is it okay when we're introduced, could I cuddle you? And most of the time they say yes. I asked this young man, could I hug you, apapacho? No. And he was very grim. Okay. But his aunt and mother were with him, and they placed him right next to me in this circle of this group. And I talked about life. I talked about what I just shared with you. And the feeling grew more and more powerful that some of the people were in tears because it gave them hope. How to be present. A mom whose daughter was bedridden, terminally ill, wept because she got something from this feeling of going home, that there's nothing to be afraid of when we pass into this next reality. And because she got a sense of the truth of that, she said to me, I can go home now and be with my daughter in a different space. And so we talked about life and love and that deep feeling. And then at the end, when I went over to this young man again next to me, I said, apapacho? He nodded. And we had a nice little cuddle. Later on, I know I'm going over time. Is this okay, Dave and Jen?
I'll just share a couple more questions.
Is there another question?
There's a couple more questions, I think.
I just want to share this last thing. I'm still open to questions. In that same group, there was another family that had brought in 3 adult children. And I could see that the kids were kind of like, I don't know what we're doing here listening to this crazy lady, but they were attentive still and respectful, but now and then looking at their watch and that kind of thing. And toward the end of my 3-hour talk, for some reason, I brought up my experience when I was in Bali with my daughter and her wife of meeting the head of the mafia in this town where we were staying, and how different he was to my image of what a mafia would look like and act like. We met him at a restaurant with a group of people, and there was a lot of hilarity coming from their group. And finally, they heard us. My daughter-in-law has a very robust laugh. And so the 3 of us started to get the giggles about our conversation. And finally, the mafia, who I didn't know was a mafia until after, looked over at us and said, where are you from? I know what it was. He had arrived at the restaurant before we got there, but we saw this number of cars, like 4 or 5 cars, black SUVs with their lights flashing, pull into the restaurant. And it turned out that it was this mafia boss. So here we are back at our table laughing. They're at their table laughing. He asked us where we were from. We said from Canada. And we started to have this great conversation. He offered to take us out to show us pearls because Bali is famous for pearls and so on. And we had a wonderful time with them. After they left, the owner of the restaurant came up and said, "Do you know who that was?" And I said, "No." And he said, "He's the head of the mafia here on Bali." And we said, wow, like so different. Before he left, he said to us, "I need to get home and fix dinner for my wife. She's just about to give birth, and I want to make sure that I have dinner ready for her so she doesn't have to do so much." This is the head of the mafia. He also said to us when we met him a couple of days later and we started to chat again, he said, "You know, I know you know now that I'm head of the mafia. Do you know the only difference between our group and the police?" We said, "No." He said, "We care." That was his words, but it kind of shocked me, you know. And so I shared that story with this group that I was talking with, and the three young people really enjoyed that conversation because it was not about the principles or anything per se. It was about a human-to-human conversation. It was really deeper than that, actually. I would say it was soul-to-soul conversation. And so I started to chat with them during the break. And then two of the younger ones went on their way to get some snacks. And the older one, who was a university student, said to me, "Could I ask you something, Miss Elsie?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You know, I've learned a little bit about the three principles from my aunt, and it has helped me." But he said, "I have a lot of insecurity at the university." And he said, "I see that I sabotage myself." "Michelle," he said, "I see that I sabotage myself." And then he got into judgment and blame about the way he sabotages himself. And I said to him, I'll call him Sam. I said, "Sam, where would you rather be? In sabotage or in well-being? In sabotage or I see?" There was this long pause, and I let the pause ride because I knew he heard something in that pause. I didn't need to teach. Where do I want to live? Okay, questions?
Okay. On the chat, the conversation went briefly. Well, can I say something when the moment's right? Only if there's time. I've said, put your hand up on the screen. Mary has hers raised. She put, I have. No.
Oh, there's Mary. Hi, Mary.
So Mary,
Hi.
Mary first and then coming to Lise.
Okay.
I had my hand raised because I wanted to say about the other people on this know that I lost my daughter about 18 months ago with cancer. And after she died, I was in the room with her body. And for the next 2 weeks, I couldn't get this image out of my mind at all. Just her lying dead on the bed. And then it occurred to me that did I actually want to remember her like that? Or did I want to remember her as she had been before? And I made a conscious effort to say, I'm going to look at all the videos, all the photographs of her smiling and all that sort of thing, so that that image wasn't overtaking my memory of her.
Oh, wow.
And it worked.
Oh.
I can still bring that to mind, but it hasn't got that punch.
Yeah. Oh, Mary. Oh, my dear. Honestly, you've really, really touched me. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
that
you.
with all of us.
Thank you.
What a beautiful soul. And what
Yes,
a
she is.
beautiful way, you know, to remember your daughter. I would suspect that she still feels close to you.
She actually comes to me in dreams every now and again.
Yeah.
And one dream she came and she was stood in the kitchen, and I knew that she was dead, even in the dream. And I said to her, "It can't be you." And she said, "Yes, it is. I've come to say I'm really sorry." And what I knew that she was sorry that she'd left. And I said, "And so you should be."
Oh, Mama.
And then we had a big hug, and that took another layer off the grief.
Oh, gosh, that's beautiful. Honestly, you'll help a lot of people in sharing that very, very powerful story. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mary, it's just been one of my highlights of this retreat. You're just spectacular lady. Thank you. Lise. Elsie, how long have you got, love?
I'm good.
Thank you. Lise.
Can you hear me first and foremost?
Oh, where are you on the
I
screen?
do, is my internet okay?
Oh, okay. So your picture's not on the screen?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, she's there.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, it's just a different name on your picture.
Ah, okay. Well, my name's Lisa Elsie, and I'm Dave's sister. Dave and Jen. I'm Dave's sister. Oh, my. Now, I have technical problems all the time, and now my sound's gone off. So if someone could, hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. Mary, who you just spoke to, human beings on the planet, and we're so blessed to have her in our life. But I've been listening to you. I've been looking forward to you coming on all week, actually, since Dave and Jen said you were coming on. And I heard you say something at the global conference that it was, I think it might have been 2014 or 2015, I can't remember which. And you stood on the stage, and I can't really remember what you said, but you said, we all have this space within us, this space. And I don't know where I got it from, but it was like this star-filled galaxy of vastness inside us all, where we can all plop into when we get a bit busy. And I can remember hearing you stand on stage, and that went in. And I can remember it was almost like I used to just fall through myself and just sit there and just be in that space above anything that was breezing in and breezing out. It was something you said opened that door within my soul. That was like that, you have the key to your own lock. Here it is, darling, and undo it and off you go. And that's what it felt like. So I just wanted to say, thank you very much for being here for the retreat, but also for that, for what you said that day, because it really did open a door in my soul. That was, it just flicked it open, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I love how you, I love what you bring to life for everybody, all of humanity, because
I feel the same about you all. You imbue me also, your spirit, your well-being and love imbue me too. I'm the same. I thank you all. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Anything else, Dave?
At this present moment, I can't see any hands raised.
Okay.
So you might be at a point where you can sneak out the back door if you wish.
All right, I will. Thank you both again for inviting me.
Would you take one more or not? Cheryl Ford
Sure.
just shut the back door and is standing guard with a hand raised high. We'll take Cheryl's question, then we're going to let Elsie.
Okay.
It's not a question, it's a comment, really. There was Elsie said, you said earlier, Elsie, does anybody want to listen to you? And I just want to say, never stop. I get so much from you every time I hear you, but I beg you never to stop.
Ah, thank you. And you know what? I really appreciate that, and I'm honored that you say that. But you know, it's you. You're hearing yourself. Absolutely. Each and every one of you that has gotten a lovely feeling or have been moved by this conversation. It's you. It's your true nature come to life, just like for me, come to life even more. And I encourage you as I end this to know that that feeling is with you always. Like you don't have to be with others to have that feeling come alive. Like it's precious to be on your own and to rest in that, as Lisa put it, sort of that star galaxy inside, to rest in there on your own, because then you really see not only are we all mentored by mind, that mind just doesn't have our back or we're shoulder to shoulder with mind. We are mind, consciousness, and thought. And the more we can rest there on our own, the more we're experiencing like heaven on earth. Bye.
Elsie,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Love. That was a really, really beautiful way to end a really beautiful week.
I've checked about 20 times that I was recording because I was loving it and wanted to make sure I wasn't. Hadn't missed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Elsie.
I'm on my way. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elsie.
Bye.
Wow. Well, end of 3 beautiful days. I just want to thank you on behalf of Jen and I. Jen can say her own thing, but I just want to say thank you for being here and making all this possible, making this such a beautiful event.
It's not quite the same when we just talk to a screen online.
You know, we've had a number of people, and we've had new people and old friends, and we're leaving with new friends. That's what I love about it. So I just want to say massive thank you. I just want to say one more time though, you know, this is a via donation event. If you can contribute to help Jenny and I's work, that would be fantastic. But like we know at this hard time, many people can't. So we do ask, you know, if you can't, just please do as well. Please take the time to do something kind for somebody else. It's not just to pay us back or pay us forward. It's a reward for yourself. You find that beauty within yourself.
And thank you, Dave and Jenny, for putting it on.
You're welcome, Kim.
That's Betty.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for being
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thank you.
This is follow what we're doing and hear about the other retreats. We have got a newsletter. We're not very active on it, but that's info@freedomthinking.co.uk, and our website's freedomthinking.co.uk, and you can sign up for the newsletter. We don't hound people. We're a bit slack with it, but also I'll be sending out all the recordings from the whole event. Initially it will just be on YouTube, and then I will create a page on our website where you can view them all back, and please do share them with people.
Yeah, if there's anybody you think may benefit from this, just put it in their direction. We put this out at this time because we know that many people are struggling.
And on Thursday evening we have our community group if anyone would like to join us. I know quite a few people on here do join us. Yeah. If you're not sick of the sound of us or sight of us, join us at 7 PM UK for our community group, and all the links will be online and I'll email it out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you.
Love you.
Yeah.
Love you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone, sorry for the foul language. Love you all.
You're forgiven.
We love you, Paul.
It's proper grassroots when you swear.
Take care.
I'd like to say gutter level, not grassroots.
Mate, you're so far from a gutter, it's ridiculous.
Thank you, everybody. It was lovely to meet you all.
Yeah.
See you again.
Who said that?
See you, Trevor. Hey, look, there's Amanda.
Rusty says it's tea time.
Kim and Betty.
Hey, look at you, gorgeous.